It
including murder, and whether that outcome is good or bad depends on the cultural norms. If we go back 1,000 years, then 2,000 years, I mean, murder was pretty culturally acceptable. Maybe farther than that.
Maybe a little farther than that.
Interesting. So it sounds like there was free will and a decision, and this was something that you did consciously, whereas perhaps there was some kind of a subconscious or a slow trickle into gaining unwanted weight, but you were able to make a decision. And I think the problem with an overly reductionist viewpoint is like, I say, oh, well, it's genetics and environment.
Mm-hmm.
I guess that could really explain every single behavior and interaction in the world, including murder, and whether that outcome is good or bad depends on the cultural norms. If we go back 1,000 years, then 2,000 years, I mean, murder was pretty culturally acceptable. Maybe farther than that.
Maybe a little farther than that. But at some point, almost everything was culturally acceptable at some point. But I guess the takeaway with that is, in today's culture, regardless of what is the genetic predisposition, it's not an excuse. If you're genetically predisposed, that should be fuel on the fire to motivate you to have those evidence-based lifestyle changes and habit formation. That is even more important. So it's not like you blame it and you say, all right, well, let's just depend on a surgery or medication. Yes, you can use medication and even surgery as tools, but that just means you should have all the more impetus to make that lifestyle change and figure out a way to make the effort of that lifestyle change, whether it's diet or exercise, feel best.
Yeah, and I think personally, I'm a lot more sympathetic now to individuals who struggle with weight or obese persons. Those people I used to think, oh, well, they don't want it bad enough. And I still maybe think to myself a little bit that, like, if they wanted to become healthy more, once you want something bad enough and you're working hard enough at it, you can generally achieve that. But the way that I frame it for myself is like, how would I feel eating, 1,000 calories a day? I was like, I'd be pretty hungry. Maybe that person has a subjective craving or a subjective hunger pang eating 3,000 calories a day. That's the same as what I have eating 1,000 calories a day. And if that was myself, I had to eat 1,000 calories a day to maintain my weight. Just speaking in terms of the appetite there, that would be difficult for me to do. Would I let myself get a little fluffier, a little bit higher body fat percentage to not be hungry all the time? Probably so. I mean, that's one of the reasons that I'm not 6% body fat year round, is because I would be hungry and not necessarily have great energy levels. Probably wouldn't be good for my connective tissue. There's a ton of reasons there, but it would be hard for the appetite reason as well.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the way I framed it, to like put in context and try and understand where someone's coming from when they're just like, I've tried and I can't do it. They've tried or they haven't found what works for them, up to this point or yet. So that's sort of a viewpoint. And at a certain point, if I started having health complications, right? So I say, well, you're diabetic. You've really got to, eat less calories. You really need to eat 1,000 calories, or again, the hunger analogy. At that point, if I'm looking and forecasting what my health is going to be like, that's probably going to be enough of a catalyst for me to change and say, hey, I'm going to be uncomfortable. It's not going to be fun, but I'm going to make my health a priority.
Yeah, definitely. At the end of the day, your health and your health span is the built-in game that, for whatever reason you believe that we've been put here, we are here playing this game. And yes, in some sports, you're not allowed to use performance-enhancing drugs or this or that. And in some video games, you don't want to cheat or whatnot. But medications and supplements are the tools that we are fortunate enough to have today. Yes, we have the epidemic of obesity, but we also have these tools that we can use that are not against the rules. You have obesity medicine physicians and clinics like ours that can help you use these tools. And you don't abuse the tool. And ideally, you don't want to make that tool become a crutch. But if I'm ever in a situation where my body composition, or in some cases, even just health, regardless of body composition, is at a plateau and I need to get to a better spot, then I will absolutely use those tools when lifestyle isn't enough.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense to use the things that are available and definitely hedge on the side of improving your health sooner rather than later. You can make a analogy here with cardiovascular disease, because it's like you get one shot at this game, right? And you want to have the best outcome. So do you gamble and think, no, I'm going to be one of those people that doesn't have problems because of this?
Yeah, if you were controlling yourself from I forget what the name of the controller is, but if you're controlling,
you see your heart's going down, right? You're down to 2 hearts, 1 heart,
2 hearts,
half
1 hearts. Yep. And then the heart is just flickering off and on. There's signs that something is not right. Your calcium score is increasing. Your clearly CCTA is increasing. You've had AFib. You've had congestive heart disease. You've had a blood clot. When those warning signs are flickering, maybe take what is it called? An astral view, an astral projection. See yourself as an organic machine, and then ask yourself again, do you want to more aggressively or less aggressively address this? And again, it starts with lifestyle factors. I guess one thing that makes me think of is you're mentioning someone hungry on 3,000 calories a day. We haven't talked about hyperphagia syndromes or Bardet-Biedl or things like that yet.
Yeah, and those are things that we're specifically, not talking about in the context of these general principles. Those things are, nearly 100% clinical penetrance rate, and 1 in a million, or as we like to say, 70% of the population.
Yeah,
people like to think that they have a rare cause for their common condition. Speaking of which, I guess there's a common number of pitfalls or things that people like to blame for a lack of weight loss.
Mm-hmm.
So we can talk about hormones, specifically thyroid hormone, the gut microbiome. Let's start with that. Thyroid hormones. Are thyroid hormones the reason people can't lose weight?
They are very seldom the reason why people can't lose weight. But if someone is gaining weight, especially from their baseline, or they've kind of broken through their normal and are gaining weight quickly, that's kind of a red flag for the incidence of hypothyroidism. But needing thyroid hormones optimized is not a reason why you're not losing weight.
Yeah, and I've seen claims made that if you are in a very hypothyroid state, that you may have a metabolic rate 10% slower than what your baseline should be. And you probably will be less active if you have less energy. So it can be a contributing factor, but the odds of someone, being in a traditional healthcare environment and getting a case of major hypothyroidism missed, I think is quite slim.
Yeah, this would be caught with thyroid labs.